Hi, I'm David Skidmore. In this lesson, we're going to be focusing once again on interval changes. In this case, we'll be focusing on larger interval changes, fifths, sixths, sevenths, and octaves. Throughout this lesson, we'll be playing double lateral strokes in the sticking 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll also discuss how to choose mallets for this etude, and of course, as always, we'll be talking a lot about making musical phrases. The first exercise will get our hands moving in this sticking of 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's start at the slowest marked tempo, which is quarter note equals 60. Also notice my mallet position in this etude. Because my number 2 and number 3 mallets both share this A natural, I have to find good playing spots for both of these mallets. My number 2 mallet in my left hand is playing at a spot just above the resonator, while my number 3 mallet in my right hand is playing at a spot just below the resonator. In warm-up 2A and 2B, we start working on these larger interval changes. Check out the position of my thumb at the beginning of warm-up 2A. Now, if my thumb were too far over to the right, I wouldn't be able to rotate the mallet between my thumb and first finger to get to this widest interval of an octave. So the thumb's got to start pretty far over to the left. The interval changes happen a little bit more frequently in this lesson than in previous lessons, so just start slow. Let's start this exercise at the slowest marked tempo, which is quarter note equals 80. Stay relaxed as you're making these interval changes. Also notice how I'm making the shift from one interval to the next at the earliest possible moment in the same way that we've been doing throughout this entire series of lessons. In exercise 2B, the right hand changes interval while the left hand stays stationary. But in the exact same way as with the previous exercise, notice the position of my thumb in my right hand. Notice how it's far enough over to the right in this case that there's plenty of room for the mallet to rotate between my thumb and first finger so I can reach all of the intervals that I need to reach. Make sure that you are not widening the interval by stretching your outside mallet. If you use your pinky and ring finger to stretch that outside mallet to change the interval between the two mallets in your one hand, it's going to create a ton of tension in your hand. Try it. Try to extend that outside mallet using just your pinky and ring finger, and notice all of that muscle tension that creeps in. For any interval change, just focus on the rotation of your inside mallet between your thumb and your first finger. If you start with a good thumb position and you focus on that rotation, you won't have any tension in your hand and you'll be able to reach whatever interval you need to reach. Once you begin to feel comfortable with exercises 2A and 2B, you could even try combining the two by changing the intervals in both hands at the same time. In the etude that's a part of this lesson, the main melodic material continuously shifts between the left hand and the right hand. There are tenuto markings throughout which indicate which hand should have the melody at which time. I'll talk more about these tenuto markings in a little bit, but first I want to take this opportunity to talk about mallet choice. Because the musical material in this lesson is similar throughout, it's a great opportunity to try a different combination of mallets in your two hands. For instance, my number 1 mallet almost always plays the lowest note in each measure. So I can use a softer and warmer sounding mallet in the number 1 position. On the other hand, my number 4 mallet is almost always playing in the higher register of the marimba. So I can use a harder mallet there to get that bright sound that I want in the high register of the marimba. In my case, I'm using in the number 1 position a Robert Van Cise M112, in the number 2 and 3 position, Robert Van Cise M113s, and in the number 4 position, a Robert Van Cise M114. It's often the case in marimba music that Each of your 4 mallets serves a very particular purpose throughout all or most of a piece of music. So using a combination of different mallets in your hands is something that you should always consider if it's appropriate for the music. As I said earlier, the melodic material in the etude that's a part of this lesson is always indicated by tenuto markings. But you'll also notice phrase markings that are grouping together 3 or more of these tenuto markings. This of course means that not each of these tenutos gets exactly the same stress. So we can focus on this now in the phrasing exercise that's a part of this lesson. This exercise presents a ton of different ways to phrase using tenuto markings, so be sure to try them all. Notice that when I'm playing each of these different variations on the phrasing exercise, I'm still trying to bring out the tenuto markings and let them stand out above the texture at all times. Like I said, be sure to try each variation of this phrasing exercise. You may not like all of the variations, and that's totally fine, but find the ones that you do like and use them to create the musical phrases that you want to create. In addition to paying attention to the tenuto markings and the phrase markings in this etude, of course also pay attention to the dynamic markings and the crescendos and diminuendos that are printed. These will give you a big picture view of how loud or quiet each section should be. Be sure to check out my performance of the complete etude from this lesson. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.